So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. One of the really cool things about me is I've got lots of incredibly intelligent friends.
And none of them are in the room today.
Here is one here. How does it feel? How does it make you feel now?
Yeah.
That me and you have been mates for 25 years?
It's strange because every once in a while I'll get a flashback, to me and you on the door of the living room in Liverpool, sharing jelly babies and laughing at people. And
this is going to be an emotional
time.
Yeah,
it's
emotional. 25 years though. How does that make you feel old? Because it makes me go, what?
Yeah.
It feels like it's been about 6 weeks.
Yeah. I know it is weird. 25. It's a big number. That's a quarter of a century. It feels like big numbers. It's big man tings.
Big man tings. Well, it is though. Really, it's mad. And so without blowing smoke up your arse,
go ahead.
I'm here
for it.
I think my business wouldn't be where it is today. My level of coaching, if it wasn't for the little tidbits and the help and the guidance that you've given me. So, if you don't mind, would you just tell people a little bit about what it is that you do? What does Richard Grannon do?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I suppose there's two ways of answering that, which I can do in parallel. So I think we were still doing the door. I think I was about 23, 24 years old. So we would have been working together then, probably still doing kickboxing with Gary Sandland in Birkenhead back in the day at Micah Hearn's gym, Fitness 2000. For those who know, they know. And I wanted, the internet was a thing, and I wanted a little bit of real estate on the internet. And I looked at all different options like affiliate marketing and even gambling websites and all kinds of different things. But the problem was I didn't understand I didn't even have an email address. I was signing on with.
Did anybody have email addresses back then?
Well, I was using America Online.
Yeah,
I mean that's how long ago. And I just there was something about it, like when it came to information marketing and information product marketing, that just really appealed to me, because I was like, well, in terms of values, I like the idea of the democratization of information. I'm anti, elitism in terms of keeping what can help people to live their lives. I was like, well, absolutely, this information should be out there. But I'd just done a psychology degree. My predominant interest was martial arts. And so I started teaching self-defense online. And because what I'd found was you would go and you'd do a traditional martial art, and then behind closed doors, or if you're in a special group, then they'd show you the stuff that really worked. And I was like, well, what the fucking hell are we doing the rest of the time? Yeah. So I wanted to take the good stuff, the cream, and then offer it out to people. And I think my ambition was to make an extra 300 quid a week, put fuel in the car, buy a few meals, blah, blah, blah. This is back when I was still living with Amy in West Kirby.
Yeah,
we had a few nights at that house.
Indeed, we did.
Remember? And it really was just what can I get a little piece of real estate here and just online and make some side money, and that's how it started. And I was initially, as I told you, I don't think you even knew before we started the interview, I was selling PDFs of bodyweight exercises.
I can't believe that we've been mates for that long and I didn't know that you were selling. Do you know what I think is really cool, or is really, it's interesting about your journey, is you were working online. You had an online business when online really wasn't a thing.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. No one had the internet. It wasn't like we've got the internet on our phones now. It wasn't like we've
this is pre-smartphones.
Information, we can get it from anywhere.
Yeah.
You saw an opportunity. You started generating revenue from a place that was so it was untapped. It just wasn't even available.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you've been doing it for this long, you're one of the, can we say pioneers? Is that a little bit gimpy?
Well, I didn't really do anything. I would be a pioneer if I'd discovered something or done something new. And actually what I was I was a good student. So back in those days, one of the big internet marketing gurus was a guy called Corey Rudell. And he was a Canadian multimillionaire through the internet. It was just after the dot-com bubble. It wasn't that long after the dot-com bubble. And he had a course of 9 DVDs that you physically bought online and they came in the mail and then you stuck them in your
28
DVD
days
player.
later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of the background I'd had in education, like my formal education, which was really strict, and then in the martial arts, it was really strict. And it was just like, well, this guy says this is what you do. As you know, I was looking to join the military at that time as well. And my mindset was just like, this is what my superior is telling me to do. I'll just do it. So everything he said to do, I did. So he had one of his chapters in this internet marketing course. People who are into it will know. He said, kungfusecrets.com hasn't been bought. That's how old this is. There was still like loads of could you imagine that now? And he said somebody should buy Kung Fu Secrets and do Kung Fu tutorials and they'll make money. And I was like, well, I can't do Kung Fu tutorials. I'll do Street Fight Secrets.
StreetFightSecrets.com.
And you were in one of the
Just
first.
going to say, I was in a couple of the
you were in a couple of
the
them.
videos.
Yeah.
Videos.
Yeah, that
People
we
don't
shot.
say videos anymore.
No, don't say videos anymore. That we shot up at West Kirby Concourse, and I would be a pioneer in self-defense within that community for combining psychology and self-defense the way I did. I could say that without cringing. And then I moved on to psychology, and I think somewhat pioneering in the way of blended bits of philosophy, different bits and pieces of psychology, bundled them together in a different syntax. So that's sort of pioneering. But actually, my online business behavior, I just went by the books and always have. So after Corey Riddell, I followed Frank Kern, people like Dan Kennedy. So anything that I've given you that's useful has come from usually from America. Dan Kennedy's been a huge influence. So when we're discussing principles of how to get to a client, how to see clients, how to offer value and convince them that you're the person that can help them solve a problem, a lot of that is very Dan Kennedy. So I'm following kind of dogmatically what other people have said. But I like it. You know, I think it can be done in a sleazy way, as we know, but you can also do it in a way that's perfectly honorable.
Yeah.
You can give people more than they've paid for, and they can walk away going, wow, you over-delivered on that. They feel good about you. They follow your advice. You have a positive influence on their lives. You're happy. They're happy. It's all good karma. And you can make money. And there's plenty of money to be made. But I think as we were talking about it in the beginning, I remember having the conversation with you in the gym and so, sometimes at home, there's that, it's a belief change thing more than anything else.
100%. I think the way that people, even now, I think, I don't think mistrust is the right word, but there's still a little bit of a little bit standoffish when it comes to online business, when it comes to paying for information. Yeah. So what is it that you specialize in now? Do you get any pushback from that? Is genre the right word?
Yeah, you say genre or niche. Well, I mean, what people know me for, and there's been a couple of documentaries that I got pulled into, or if somebody sees me in the streets and they know me as the narcissism guy.
Yes,
which
right.
Which is unfortunate. Because I got pulled into that. I didn't really want to talk about it, but
how did that happen then? Where did that come from?
It all came from self-defense. I mean, it's still self-defense ultimately. So with Street Fight Secrets, what I found was when I became an instructor's instructor, not for the physical techniques, but for the psychological techniques, and then how to teach their students the psychological techniques to be more aggressive, be more confident, so on and so forth. So I was spending a lot of time talking to instructors, and I was talking to a lot of police, and I was talking to a lot of soldiers. And then, as you know, at one point I was talking to the air marshals quite a lot and helping the guy who's in charge of the physical side in the Air Marshals Training Center that was in Las Vegas, how to develop courses to prepare air marshals for what they had to do after 9/11. And what I found consistently, you're talking to MMA fighters, police, soldiers, and instructors, pretty tough dudes in their various fields, but they all seem to have a problem with asserting themselves outside of work. So in their professional lives, they were tough, they were boundaried, and they were forthright. but then with their wives, with their kids, with girlfriends and whatever, it would fall apart. And I was like, well, I've seen that in myself. You know, I can be very, very weak and very, very passive in one context, but doing nightclub security, obviously you have to be confident, you have to be assertive in another.
It's almost like some of your life is an act.
Yeah.
And then when you clock out,
yeah,
you know, these air marshals, these military operators, when they clock out and they go home to their kids, their wives, I think they struggle to know how they're supposed to act.
Yeah.
When you think about the crazy lives which some of these guys have, you know, they can't even tell their families where they've been, what they're doing, where they're possibly going to go. And
then quite happy to shoot people in the head.
And then they come home and they're like, chicken nuggets and chips, is it, darling?
Yeah.
It's that transition period, I can 100% see how traumatic that would be to a guy.
Yeah, really, because it's like, without the uniform, without the outfit, without the role, and I could see that with door work. I was like, I was in situations where I was in civilian clothing without the badge on, and I'm responding completely differently and with way more stress. And I'm like, are you addicted to black clothing and having what difference does it make?
Yeah, it's a persona. I do you know what? You saying that then, that's how I used to feel. I'd see people, because when we worked on the doors in Liverpool for a very long time, it was a very crazy period of both of our lives. I lived in town, so I would be out and about in town, and I'd see other doormen, and they'd be out with their kids, they'd be out with their wives, they'd be out with their non-security based friends, and they'd be like a completely different person.
Yes,
and you'd think, if you were to get into an altercation now, I would be confident that you would get in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Whereas you put that black coat on, and those, remember we spoke before about the leather gloves?
Yeah.
You put those leather gloves on, and it's almost like they kind of turn into, they have this, not superhero, but they have this enhanced kind of confidence that they can deal with situations.
I was actually listening to a Lex Friedman podcast a couple of days ago, and he was talking to an evolutionary psychologist, and they actually, a piece of the puzzle clicked into place for me. When men are married, the preponderance towards violence goes right down.
Love evolutionary psychology.
Post-divorce, one of the things that some of the research indicated, that even guys who are just normal, middle-class, middle-aged dudes, after they got divorced, the likelihood of them getting into barroom brawls goes through the roof.
Yep.
So it's like, if you have a wife and kids, it does something to you almost at the genetic.
It's supposed to, from what I've read and what it's supposed to, once you have kids, once you settle down, these days, because what you've got to remember is men are still men. We are the same men, physically, that would get onto boats, go across the sea, kill everybody, and come back.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a certain level of anger, a certain level of aggression.
Yeah.
But then when you settle down, i.e., you're not going away and
killing,
marauding anymore.
Yeah. You've not smashed anyone's skull in for
testosterone
years.
will fall down.
Yes.
I've noticed this a lot we call it settling, I think, and I see a lot of it in the school playground. I've been taking my kids to that school. Well, Logan's 13, so for 8, 9, 10 years, maybe, whatever it is. So I see the same people in that playground every single day. And I see young men who have now turned into a complete shadow of their former self. So it feels like they've settled for this new life. I see it a lot, and I'm a geek. I watch people. I'm interested in evolutionary psychology. I love it. I just love watching the transition. Young, crazy guy has a couple of kids, puts on a few pounds, calms down, and it's all to do with the fact that his testosterone is supposedly getting lower because it's not really required anymore. He's got his kids, he's got his wife.
And I watched that at close quarters with somebody in my extended family, and I was watching him and I was like, I wonder why, because he was always in amazing shape and always like a high energy all American alpha male, and he started to put on weight and he got quieter and everything else, and I'm like, but His sleep is now dysregulated by the kids. So he's craving foods is going to be different. He's eating different. He's drinking more alcohol. When you're around kids a lot, I don't need to tell you this. I mean, I've only done it with my sister's kids. You know, you have to talk to them nicely.
You soften.
Especially when they're little, even if they're boys.
Yeah.
They're little. You come here now. You don't talk to little tiny children like that. And everything is cartoons and it's playtime and it's cuddly and you want to keep things safe and your mind goes to safety. So it seems natural to me that, of course, your testosterone level. Actually, testosterone is not going to help you in that environment. You're going to be shorter tempered. You could get violent. It's not required.
You're going to be aggressive. Yeah. You don't need that anymore.
Yeah. So I can see it. I don't know I have no idea what the solution is for that, but I can definitely see it happening. But calling it, we say settling down, bits of your personality just need to go away a little bit. And I get it. There's no criticism in that whatsoever. I would hate to think of guys trying to be testosterone alpha males around small children. All you're going to do is terrify them. But we are the animal we are, as you've just said. So where's the appropriate? I think culturally we're in a massive struggle right now. There's potentially a death spiral as to what we do with men and what we do with masculinity. Where does this go? We are evolved to cave other men's heads in.
Yes.
And there's no
happy memories.
Happy memories. There's easier, simpler times, Dan.
Yes.
There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about that. Me saying that is not part of some patriarchal propaganda. Forget all that. We wouldn't even be here to have these arguments if we didn't live on the skeletons of millions of men who did that job for us. There's no question that our safety, our enjoyment now is done by men who are doing that in a moderated way. They don't use a rock, they'll use a gun. And as technology advances, the distance between you and the enemy gets larger and larger. And okay, fine. But it's the same principle. And I think back in 2013 with Street Fight Secrets, I saw this problem coming up. And men were getting depressed and they were getting anxious and they'd lose respect for themselves. And it was this, I called it, I focused on people pleaser syndrome and I identified like 15 traits of people pleaser syndrome. And I didn't put it in the context of like masculinity in crisis because I just didn't think about it that way. I was just like, these are dudes in the martial arts world. They've got this role over here. I called it supra states. So I'd be like, your supra state for being a soldier is this. Your supra state for door work is that. It's natural for us to have different split personalities. Of course, you don't want to bring the doorman home to a 4-year-old kid at home because that would just be inappropriate.
No, we knew a few of them. We knew a few of those. There was a lot of people when we were working on the door, they'd come into work and they'd be like, just punch me, bird.
Right. So there were lads who couldn't do the split.
Switch off.
They couldn't switch off.
They spent so much time, especially the guys who did it full time.
Yes.
Spent so much time immersed in that hyper aggressive, hyper stimulated supra doorman mode.
Yeah.
They couldn't switch off.
And for people like, I think people look at door work and security work and they think, well, you do that, you guys all do, or you girls and guys, you do that as an indulgence, as a flex, as an affectation. And you think, yes, of course, the indulgence, the flexing and the affectation is there, but that's secondary to what it is. It's a really weird job. You're convincing total strangers who could kill you that you're not to be fucked with. And so, yeah, you do have to develop a bit of a persona that goes with that. And that persona is not particularly agreeable and not particularly nice.
No. And it can take over.
It can take over because you got to stand there. You don't know who this person is in front of you who started some shit. You'd be like, oh, he's only small. He's only skinny. Yeah, he's got a blade on him. And he's a nutcase who carves people for his reputation back in whatever township or whatever caravan site he's come from 100 miles away. You can't make those kinds of assumptions. So your personality sort of molds to the environment, which is why when people have this view of like the situation that we've got right now of like British lads going to war, bravely going to help the Ukrainians, and then they get there and the Ukrainian soldiers treat them like shit, treat them like cannon fodder. I don't know if you've heard this. They've been issuing them with assault rifles with only 10 rounds in them. And they're like, yeah, we've got the guns, but they didn't give us the bullets. You go and attack that enemy position over there. We'll be behind you.
Yeah.
And they were like, I thought we'd be hailed as heroes. No, these are men who've been fighting in horrible conditions, taking drugs, consuming alcohol now for the best part of 10 years. Yeah, they're a bit weird and they're not very nice, actually.
No.
And they don't care that you've come to help because then why would they're totally traumatized? I'm not saying they're victims. What they're doing is wrong. It's horrible. But of course, and I think I think the point I'm making in a roundabout way is it worries me that we've gotten to this naive state about not just men, but human nature itself. I'll go over and help those Ukrainians. The Ukrainian soldiers will welcome me with open arms. Some might. But don't be surprised if you find some people there who are a bit mean, who are a bit nasty, don't really care about you. And I think we're struggling with our own sort of naivety, and it's masculinity that heals that balance in men and in women, because all men have women in them, all women have men in them. There's yin and yang and yin. And if we ignore or cut off masculinity, it's the masculine side of ourselves, the yang side of ourselves that is realistic, that is cynical. And it bothers me that we've gotten to a place now where we're like, yeah, I'll just go to war and it'll be great. Really?
They do it for the gram.
They do it, honestly.
They do it for TikTok.
Honestly, mate.
Do you think these guys are going over there because they're lacking a little bit of purpose? Do you think they're trying to find something? Like I said, a lot of the time, unfortunately, it is for social media.
Well, okay, let me just say something first before people get all triggered in the comments. We both agree that the sentiment to want to, because some of the lads are interviewed, the sentiment to want to protect innocent women and children and men who simply don't want to fight,
of course,
is of course virtuous. Yeah. Of course, it's a good thing.
Of course it is.
But we are, again, with the cynicism thing, we are men, we have lived, and we know that on the back end, there's secondary gain. There's people 100%. Fantasizing.
There's going to be secondary gain. You go and stand post. You don the uniform. You go. You hopefully come back
with a Ukrainian wife.
You are going to get lots of admiration. You are going to get lots of attention, lots of behaviour.
Maybe that hot girl from your town who ignored you is going to notice
now
you.
You're a war hero.
Yeah.
Now you are, if we go back to our ancestors, you would go away, you would kill everyone, you would rape, pillage, plunder, come back, and you would then be a more attractive. You would be then, you would be a more, your status, fantastic. Yeah. You would be a higher status man.
Yeah.
You would be more desirable to people. And I think that's still in us.
Absolutely.
Because we crave status. That's what fellas want.
We've been rewarded for that. For as long as humans have been humans, we've been rewarded for that. So even if you were minging, if you killed loads of fellas, and you might think I'm trying to make like it's a humorous point. It really isn't. If you were minging, but you killed loads of fellas, and all the other men looked at you with respect, and you were the leader of men, as a woman, you would, not all women, but many women,
not all of them,
have evolved to just go, look at that guy. With his,
Well, if you go back to ancient Rome, if you go back to the gladiators, very, very, very wealthy women, wives of politicians, wives of emperors, would pay to have sex with the gladiators.
Yeah.
Stinking, minging, battered, poor, disease-ridden.
Slaves, basically.
Insanely desirable because of what they do.
Well, and, we mentioned evolutionary psychology before. I try and put myself in those shoes because by our sensibilities of 2022, you go, that's absolutely barbaric. But then you go, because one of the things that I heard, I think I watched on the History Channel, they'd pay to have sex with them. And if they couldn't afford to have sex with them, they'd collect their sweat, take it home and give it to their husbands. And it was considered an aphrodisiac. And I'm like, this is insane. The ancient Romans are great. They teach us so much about human nature. But if you think a guy getting into an arena, half naked, swinging a sword, chopping another fella up, it's the ultimate expression of masculine dominance.
100%.
And we're all going to be just horrified that women of the day were aroused by that.
Yeah,
Come
on. I can't think why.
I can't imagine why.
It's like if we bring that forward to today, I know quite a lot of visually challenged gentlemen, shall we say.
Yeah.
I know a lot of boxers. I know a lot of MMA fighters. I know a lot of gangsters. I know a lot of naughty people who have got cauliflower ears, twisted up noses, fat lips, and they've got fantastically attractive girlfriends.
What? Yeah.
Because the women are attracted to that persona, that level of masculinity.
It's back to status, isn't it? The point about the gangsters is a big one. I mean, of all that, because of the door that we were on, there was a lot of faces in there. None of them were handsome. There wasn't
none
like
of them
handsome gangster.
No,
but they weren't short of women. So we're back to status again.
Yeah,
and I think this is another element of the times we're living in. This could be a very triggering interview for people in the comments. Men and women are different.
Richard, what are you crazy?
I know.
Cut.
I know.
What are you, mad?
Stop the interview now.
No.
We've gone too far. A man is not going to have sex with a woman because she's funny. A man is not going to have sex with a woman because she killed a bunch of people. No. It doesn't even register on our radars. It's not even maybe there are some men, of course. This is the wonderful thing about human sex and sexuality and lust. There's something for everybody. It's a very wide, because it's a genetic survival trait. We mutate and people mutate into different areas, of course. So that's fantastic. Some guys like that. But for the majority, for the thick end of the wedge, it doesn't mean anything that the girl has a PhD or the girl is really funny or the girl is super violent or...
If anything, it's intimidating. It's off-putting.
It can be, yeah.
Women tend to... We're going to get cancelled here, aren't we?
Do it.
Women tend to date across and up.
Hypergamy.
So women don't tend to date anyone shorter than them.
Yeah.
They don't tend to date anyone who earns less money.
Yeah.
They don't tend to date anyone with less status.
Yes.
So what that means is...
Are you angry about that?
Yeah.
I see loads of guys online who are furious about it.
I'm not really.
I'm not angry about it at all. Women, so we are probably...
I possibly would be angry if I was 5'8", thick and ugly.
So yeah, right. So okay.
I can see why.
We're in very dangerous territory here. I'm not angry with women for doing that at all because I don't have sex with women for charity purposes. I don't. I'm not out here going, oh, what a lovely...
She honestly, she's so funny.
Kind. Let me just give her an orgasm because she's a sweet person. I don't do that. So I pursue, as a solipsistic, narcissistic, standard issue human being, my sexuality is not as opportunistic as anybody else's. And I'm like, no, I have preferences. I like girls who look a certain way. I like girls who act a certain way. I make no apologies for that. When I see guys kicking off, like, because girls won't date women shorter than them, I'm like, well, I feel the same way.
100%.
I'm not a tall man.
Yeah.
So I've never even been attracted to a girl the same height as me or taller than me.
No.
And I'm not angry with a woman.
No.
If she's 5'10" and she looks at me and goes, you're an inch shorter than me, it turns me off. I go, well, you're an inch taller than me. That turns me off.
Yeah.
Is that a
This
crime?
is not going to work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it any more than she would. And I think there's a bit of solipsism from the side of men when they get angry about this. Men want what they want. Women want what they want. Let's stop hating each other for it. We are the animals that we are. We seek power. We seek precious resources. A man with money is rare. He's a precious resource. A tall man with a symmetrical face is statistically rare. So he's a precious resource. The girl with the waist to breast size ratio of X, she's a precious. If the person is a rare and precious resource, then they will be pursued. That's life. Diamonds are rare, or they're made rare by the De Beers company, so we pay more for them. Yeah. I don't. Again, it's back to this naivety thing. As culture has gotten less and less masculine, we can't have these conversations because we're joking about political correctness. Political correctness is not the realm of the masculine. That's the realm of the feminine, which wants to keep things fair. Yeah. And it's not fair. You were born genetically better looking. That's not fair. Women want to maintain social status, which is a good drive. And it's balanced by men who are competitive and say, well, I don't care about what's fair or what's not. I'm going to take what I can. We've got to get back to, my humble opinion, balance. It's not that the world needs to become hyper masculine again. It just needs to balance a little bit because we need to have these conversations. if, like you just said, well, some people are short and they're fat and they're ugly and they also have low IQ. You can't say that. And yet it's true.
I was just going to say, that's not coming from a judgmental. That's the truth.
Yeah. So you're reporting a fact.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Are you 5'7"? Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
unfortunately,
a
you're short.
That's a factor.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think being able to deal with reality just as it is, I know I'll get pushed. I'll get tremendous pushback for this. In my humble opinion, not just my humble opinion, the realm of equality, egalitarianism, and justice is valid. It's idealistic. The realm of masculinity is not that. It's competitive and it's realistic, and it deals, in my humble opinion, more effectively with truth and with just factual data. Because when we, on this side, the masculine, if you're a masculine woman, then it's the same thing. You're not primarily concerned with trying to keep things fair, because life is not fair. But so what am I saying? Eradicate the female prerogative of fairness? No, I like justice. I'm politically, I'm left leaning, which means in this model that I'm presenting, I'm more feminine in that way. I'm concerned with issues of social justice. I don't want to live in a hyper competitive Nazi world. It wouldn't appeal to me. So, answering your question on Street Fight Secrets, that's what I was doing.
What happened?
We opened Pandora's box. Where did all that come from, Dan? We're in so much trouble now. So you said you couldn't interview, right?
I've got a semi on here.
This is Dan's first interview. He's a bit nervous. He said he couldn't interview, but this has been if you can draw this out of people, it's fantastic.
I've got no idea where to go now, though.
No, well,
how are we going to fucking link this to anything?
Everywhere we go now, it's going to be like, wow, we were fixing the problems of the world. We're in a different spot here.
We're talking about caffeine just now.
Yeah, I know.
And now we're going to go out there and kill every fucker.
Yeah. And we're going to do it in the name of balancing the world.
Balance on this, mate.
Balance on this. There's a vein that needs tapping. It's one of these issues that like we'll probably come back to again and again. Because we have to have this conversation, and so far it's been made because of cancel culture, because of woke ideology, and you know.
Don't say ideology like that. Say it how you normally say it.
How do I normally say
ideology?
Oh, because
there we go.
Woke ideology or whatever you want.
That's better.
It's made it very, very hard to have these conversations. I think, you know, being able to put the material out there and just say, well, look, it's an opinion. It might not be your opinion, but this is the way it is. And it is damaging. Look at fellas now. Depressed, fat, like you said before, are the lads going to the Ukraine? Is this a lack of purpose? And we sidetrack from there. The answer I'd come back to is yes.
I think so.
I respect them for doing what they're doing. I just think it's misguided. Fair play to you. You think you're doing a good thing. You've no idea what that situation is. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. It's not like Wales or Cardiff was invaded 2 weeks ago by a foreign force. Let's all go and help the Welsh. It's not. And this isn't Putin propaganda or pro-Kremlin propaganda. What I'm saying is there's nuance, there's complexity there. It's been going on for a long, long time. And most of us, we haven't got a clue. We're just not qualified to go in there and get involved in that.
Especially in something in a culture that's so different.
So different.
To what we are used to in this country.
Yeah.
What we are used to in this country, what we deem hard.
Yeah.
Is absolutely nothing compared to the real situation over in Ukraine now. Those men, they haven't, like you said, they haven't just gone, we're going to have to start fighting.
No.
This has been in them for a very long time. They've had crazy lives. They've been oppressed. They've suffered. And then we've got our guys skipping over there.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's going to be a walk in the park. And like you've just said, they're going,
yeah.
Here's half a mag.
Here's half a
Off
mag.
You pop.
That's
I'll
all we
be
can
over
spare.
here behind this tank.
Yeah, exactly. And you're up front, lads. You're going to clear that minefield.
Thanks for coming.
This is ethnic, and it always gets like from the outside. People go, well, they're all white. They're all Christian, blonde hair, blue eyes. What? It's as we saw in Bosnia, it doesn't work like that. And there's something about when it gets to racism and that ethnic, that's tribal, then we're back in our primal states.
100%.
Shit gets nasty.
Yeah.
Really,
that's
really
genetic.
nasty.
That's not learned. That's not studied. That's not a theory. That's the way that they have been brought up and the way that they have lived their lives, which is completely different to the way that we are.
Yeah. And that's where the atrocities start coming out, and you start getting in very quickly into the realm of war crimes. I posted a thing on Instagram today. There's a Ukrainian doctor saying that if he catches any POWs,
he's gonna.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
He's told his doctors to castrate them. So I posted that, and there's people in the comments going, "Yeah, I think that's right." Like, are you mad? A doctor wants to mutilate prisoners of war, and you're going, "Well, the Russians, they are a bad lot." Back in 1930s, how quickly we descend back into these primal, biological us versus them states, and this is the same thing. We've gone into denial of the reality of human nature because it's not politically correct.
And these are the same people that are going to be hashtagging "Be Kind,"
of course,
on other stuff, but in the same vein. Not that vein.
Not that
in the same vein. They're saying, yeah, cut his dick off, cut his balls off.
Cut his balls off.
It's sound, mate.
Of an injured, why would a Russian soldier be in with a Ukrainian doctor because he's injured? He's had his leg ripped off. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, from the comfort of my home on my iPhone, sipping my gingerbread latte, is as you sew his leg up, can you just cut his balls off? God, wow. And I think this is what happens this is back to psychoanalysis, Jungian and Freudian psychoanalytic theory. When you repress or you suppress certain elements of human nature, they don't disappear. They express themselves in weird ways. They leak out. And I think you asked me what kind of work I'm doing. Now I'm looking more broadly at narcissistic abuse in general. And I'm particularly interested in Jung had a concept of shadow activation. So he said that everything that we suppress and everything that we don't like about ourselves, and we push away, our pettiness, our narcissism, our hostility, our aggression, it doesn't just go away into the unconscious. He would talk about shadow possession. It comes back and it takes you over in an almost like a demonic way. So there's that kind of thing is something that I'm focused on now a lot as well. Which is, it's broader than the individual. It then becomes at the nation level and at the political level and everything else.
Tell me more about
that. We are in a phase now.
That's super interesting, that.
Sort of a phase now collectively of a collective shadow activation because of our, in inverted commas, civilized lives that have gone on for so long with so much comfort and so much indulgence, because of rampant, unrestrained consumer capitalism in training us to think of ourselves as consumers to be eternally pleasured. A lot of the darkness has disappeared. A lot of the pain has disappeared, and a lot of reality, because reality is made up of darkness and pain as well as pleasure, disappears with it.
And people don't want to hear that, do they?
Not at all.
People just like the sunshine and rainbows, the fluffy bunnies and stuff. They don't like to know that life's tough. Life's hard. Life has got some real challenging, real horrible elements to it. And I think when people start to ignore that and suppress that, like you said, it builds up and it builds up, and then they explode.
Well, and we're working very much against our nature. There's things that we would have to deal with just 100 years ago. I was listening to a chap called Professor Dutton recently, and he said if you just look at the child mortality rates, it's pretty rare to experience or to even know somebody in your social circle who's suffered the extreme pain of the loss of a child, thankfully. So that means progress. It means we're winning. Great. Across the board, we are winning. Generally speaking, humanity's winning. How would we know that? Well, in 1850, there was 1 billion of us. And now in 2022, we're pushing 8 billion. Our population's exploded because we've reduced the mortality rates across the board. People live for longer. Diseases that would wipe us out, we can now control. What's the consequence of that? If we're winning, why do things suck so badly? Because this has become, I think, like a Pyrrhic victory. It's not worth what we're going to have to pay. What we've won is not going to be the cost that is now coming due. We're now going to have to pay the bill. And I really am very, very concerned about the state of the world at the moment. I think things could get very, very dark very, very quickly. The shadow activation can't be stopped. It's coming. The only thing we can try and do is know it and control it. I don't think we like it here. I don't think humans like this much comfort. At the conscious level, we go, this is great. But at the unconscious level, I think we want to tear it all down. And that's why you see across the board these weird movements, these weird collectives getting together. And it's almost like forces of evil or forces of pure chaos. Why are they trying to tear everything up? Because that's humanity. That's what it wants. We're not. Another concept I've heard recently, both from Dutton, who's an evolutionary psychologist, and from Brett Weinstein, who's an evolutionary biologist, is we are not a good evolutionary match for our environment, which is what you were saying before.
Yeah, totally.
We're evolutionary evolved to bash people's heads in.
Yeah.
Now it's Instagram, Netflix, and Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Of course, we're a bit freaked out. It's
100%.
a bit dystonic. It's a bit weird. Like there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on because our drives are over here, but we have to live like this. And as Zizek would say, this is ideology today. We're told that this is freedom, but it feels like a terrible, burdening imprisonment. And with war is chaos. And there is a drive now to war. So the same people who were saying, wear a mask, stop your save your grandmother from dying 3 weeks ago, are now the ones pushing for an actual hot war and an invasion, a counter invasion of Ukraine to push the Russians back. And you think, well, why would they want that? They're driven, my humble opinion, by the same shadow possession that craves chaos. Darkness.
I think people like listening to stuff like this, but a lot of the times people can't cope with listening to stuff like this.
Yep.
Because it pushes them to question their own beliefs and their own motives and their own, like we spoke about this in the gym the other day. I believe if what I love is the fact that there's Ukrainians from all over the world are just going, hold me coat.
Yeah.
And they're getting on planes, they're getting on ferries, and they're going back to Ukraine to fight.
Yes, that's right.
I don't think if it was the other way around, all the fellas who own nightclubs and stuff in Marbella and who've got businesses, or I don't think they'd go, I'm going home to fight, babe.
You mean if somebody invaded?
If someone invaded here, I don't think we've got that pride. I don't think we've got that. I think if someone invaded us, we would be in a lot of trouble.
I had this. There's Pierre who I do the podcast with, Pierre XO, and I discussed this with him on the Tentacle Class 1 podcast a couple of times. I'm a little bit more optimistic about that. I know the West is weak. I know that we're lazy, but I do think you'll never know until it's happening. So what happened with me was me and him were discussing. I was still in Prague, and the invasion was only 3 days old. And he said, if it came to Prague, would you fight? And I'd be like, well, if I'm here and I don't want to die, then yeah.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, I'm here.
Might as well.
I can't leave.
Hold me coat, give us a gun.
Presumably, they're not just going to let me leave on a plane, so I'd have to. But I would be like, meh about it. But then we were talking about it, and I went, but what if they said Liverpool was invaded or Birkenhead was invaded? And then I totally changed my emotional state. And I was like, I didn't think about cold. I didn't think about how am I going to fucking live? How am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? I was just like, I'll fucking murder everyone. It's totally unreal. And I would just get shot dead. Obviously, I just walk up with a brick and be like, come on then, you fucking dickhead. And some Russian would be like, oh, it seems like this idiot wants to die. Yuri, give him bullet to brain. And that'd be the end of me. I'd have a brave 10 seconds. But I think back to the tribalism, back to the primal instincts, things would take over. People who've been living a life of indulgence and rigid individualism and all that, if it comes on top in that pressure, then you'd see what's inside. Because we don't have a strong sense of national pride here. We don't have a strong sense of nationalism. I agree with you 100%. Sometimes you need that pressure to bring it out. It's an interesting thing that's happening with Russia right now. I used to do Systema, a Russian martial art, and they were always teaching that you can hit your opponent in a way that strengthens them. So don't hit them like that. Hit them in a way that weakens them, drop them, frighten them, weaken them. And they said if you, and they'd show these strikes. I never really got it fully, but like if you strike off somebody and they go, fucking hell, it can make them want to do it back.
Yeah.
And I think accidentally, what Russia's done here, what Putin has done here, is he's actually mobilized Ukraine and mobilized the West. Because actually, our response in the West, I haven't got many complaints about it. I think it's been quite muscular with the sanctions and everything else, and the unity. Dublin now, other countries are trying to join NATO. Suddenly, we're fortified. I think that would happen if it came on top with the UK. I think we'd all. Maybe I'm being idealistic and optimistic here. I think we'd all shake it off a little bit and go, hang on a second, no. Because that nightclub owner in Marbella, well, his mum still lives here. Does he want a Russian soldier sharing a cup of coffee in his mum's living room? And if he thinks about that, he might suddenly find himself back on a plane and putting on the body armor. And, these are, you know what I mean?
Let's hope we don't have to find out. But
no.
I don't know. I just don't think people are wired like me and you.
No. Mate,
Given what I see
yeah,
on a day-to-day basis, I think there'll be a lot of sick notes going in.
Well, Pierre was particularly...
A lot of doctor's notes.
A lot of doctor's notes. I think Pierre was talking particularly about millennials and Gen Z, and he was saying that they're just not going to go for it because they're too sad, they're too depressed, they're on this, they're on that. And I just think... I think... I don't believe that human personalities are fixed. I think we pretend that they're fixed out of narcissism, egotism. I vote left and I'm introverted and I'm this and I'm that. It's all bollocks, really. I mean, if the environment changes, I think if we lived in a war zone and it was out war and you knew there were atrocities being committed to people who looked exactly like you 2 roads down and you just missed it, I think your whole personality would shift in no time at all. You'd become a different entity. And I think, there would be people who would hand in their sick notes and they wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't hack it. They wouldn't be interested. But I think a lot of people would man up. A lot of people would man the fuck up and just go, okay, this is our territory. Because that's what you need. The Ukrainian response is the correct response.
100%.
Emotionally, this is our land. We are a sovereign people. They're trying to reabsorb us into Russia like it was Soviet times. And some of them are going, and we're here for that because we're Russian speakers and we want, we know all about the separatists and everything. If it happened here, it would be a shock and people would go into shock, but very, very quickly, I think they'd mobilize because we are the survivors of multiple wars. Our ancestors are the winners.
Yeah.
We are the winners. The losers are all dead. The ones who couldn't hack it, the ones who couldn't make it, the ones who, whatever, through the pressures of the horrors of life on Earth, their DNA didn't move forward. Ours did. And you could argue, well, that might have been true up until 1950. And then after that, the world was a softer place. And I'm like, but we're still the descendants, however distantly, maybe 4 generations back, of those same winners, of those people who could. So I'm optimistic. I think, you know about the field of epigenetics. You stick people in different environments and different genes start to express themselves and recombine. Lads who've got no aggression in them, very low levels of testosterone, they end up in prison. Suddenly they're walking around in prison jacked.
Yeah.
And you go, are they on roids? No, there's no roids in there. It's a clean jail. Why do they look like that? Because they're scared and competitive.
Yeah. They've adapted to their environment.
And they have, imagine having fuck all else to think about 24 hours a day, but I'm in a gang, and the other gang's trying to kill me, and I better get ready. And nothing, just that on a cycle. We're so torn apart with all the different things we have to focus on. All I have to think about is a guy taking a 15-second opportunity to shank me and trying to prepare for that. In a way, as horrifying as it sounds, there's a relief to that. I have nothing else. No taxes, no bills, no fucking insurance, nothing. Just that. I wouldn't want that. Don't put me in prison. It's horrifying. Of course, it's horrifying. But in terms of what did they say? Evolutionary match. Mm-hmm. That's a closer evolutionary match than fucking taxes and bills and insurance and your Netflix subscription. Way more closer. And you see that. Because the body responds, the body and mind goes, okay, it's time. Let's do this.
Any idea how the fuck we're going to bring this interview to a close?
So basically, I'm starting a new political party, right?
And I'm going to be the shadow secretary.
This is
Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister.
King.
Danny's the king. Danny. Look, see his stance change instantly there. He went king mode. He went crown mode immediately. So he's going to be the king of the new United Kingdom world. The United World.
United Kingdom world.
Kingdom worlds. Even the aliens on this planet will be annexed and brought into Danny's kingdom, such as his grandiosity. They'll be like, we're not even from here, we're from Mars. Fuck you, you're here.
Get on your knees.
Bend the knee or die, Martians. So that's what's happening. We're going to have a new movement, Dan. Do you know how easy it would be to have a right-wing movement in this country right now? And to just be like, right, this is what we're doing. Ultra-nationalist, ethnocentric right-wing movement.
I think this conversation's gone a little bit crazy, hasn't it?
No, but it's true, Danny. I'm just
Started
saying.
off talking about online business.
Yeah.
And now everyone's dead.
And now
Now
a great cleansing.
there's
is
only
gonna
me and
be
you
good.
left.
Yeah.
Now what the fuck are we going to do?
Megalomaniacs. There will be the Megalomaniac podcast. Do you want to swerve the course for another day? I'm back in here on Thursday. Do you want to do another one on Thursday?
Yeah, we could do.
Okay.
Because I literally don't see any way that we can now segue into a fucking self-help course.
Okay. What do you feel about your first interview? I think you did great.
I think it felt really, really good.
Yeah, good. Because not everybody can do this. And if you can bring something out of your guest that they weren't expecting to talk
Fucking
about,
hell,
that's awesome.
We were supposed to be talking about trauma. We were supposed to be talking about what practical tips can you offer?
Yeah, what are the practical tips?
We're talking about stoving people's heads in with axes.
Yes. That's the It might not be the conversation that people wanted, but it's the conversation they
got.
needed.
Well,
Yes.
it means that we're both going to be working in fucking Tesco's soon.
Cancelled.
Yeah, cancel culture.
I'm ready.
How shall I bring this to a close? What should we do? Or
Just
should we
say,
should we just cut it and say we got cancelled?
Yeah, we're done.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are incredibly sorry to announce that Richard and Daniel are serving gulag
They're in gulag.
A cellar somewhere.
Just say thanks very much for coming. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll do this again soon. It should be enough.
Should be enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so Richard, on that absolute bombshell, this has been amazing.
Yeah, man.
I've super enjoyed. I didn't have a clue where it was going to go, to be honest. I just, knowing the conversations that me and you have off camera, I thought it might be quite good just to lash a camera there and we'll just have a chat.
Yeah.
And it went really, really well.
Yeah.
So thank you for today.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me in. And this was Danny's first interview, and I think he nailed it. That was awesome. Mate.
I think I showed dominance.
I feel dominated.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Fucking do. You better close this out before it gets any weirder for them.
So hopefully you got a lot of information from that. Hopefully you came away with something that you didn't quite think that you were going to get. And I look forward to the next time that we do this.
Cheers, guys.